Reboots are rarely liked by anybody, so Sonic Boom has a lot riding on its shoulders. In my own opinion, I actually really liked the concept. I think the characters don't look as bad as people say they do. I don't care that Sonic has blue arms. And I also like that Sonic Team finally stopped listening to retro Sonic fanboys and actually step out to try something new. Trying to recapture the magic of the old Sonic games is impossible because retro Sonic fanboys are impossible to please, and you will never accomplish it. The gameplay promised to bring back Sonic Heroes, which was one of my favorite Sonic games, so I was pretty excited for it, although I will say that it has a little bit more in common with Sonic Advance 3, if you ever played that one. With that in mind, there are two games that I'll probably be drawing a lot of comparisons to. We have Sonic Heroes, which is kind of the spiritual predecessor, and we also have Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which is my favorite 3D Sonic game. For those who don't know, a TV show was also released, and I'm probably not going to make the TV show review its own video, so I'll go ahead and just say that while I do believe it is a huge improvement over Sonic X being a little more interesting for adults and hitting a slightly higher audience, it's still not all that good. Nintendo is all about dropping that copyright hammer on videos that include their audio, so I'm going to go ahead and mute all of the audio for this video. I'm also going to try to keep all of the footage from relatively early on, maybe half an hour to an hour into the game. So if I can't show you something in particular that I'm talking about that's not happening on the screen, it's probably because it happens later than that, and I apologize for it. Graphically, the game looks okay. Honestly, I don't see where the cutscenes look much better than Sonic Heroes cutscenes. And that crap was on the GameCube. If you really want to argue that the cutscenes look that much better, then they don't look Wii U better. They look like they could have been very easily accomplished on the Wii. Well, I'm not going to go out here and say that graphics make the game and that the graphics are more important than the gameplay or anything dumb like that. Don't twist my words around. I will say that this is the worst looking game I've played on the Wii U so far, if that means anything. Graphics for a lot of the Wii U games I've played so far have really impressed me, Hyrule Warriors being one of the big contenders for one of the best looking games that I've seen so far, and all of the Mario games look really good too. Heck, how's this for you? Sonic Lost World had better graphics than this game. I don't even know how that happens. That game came out before this one. You'd think they would have learned a little bit. Well, there's really not that much wrong with the character models. The characters look pretty okay. I do kind of have a problem with the environments. Cutting the sweet talk for a second, the environments are very childish, and I don't like them. There's a lot of plants that don't have any texturing on them at all. The leaves look very papery. The trees look really awful, and honestly, I think they could have done a better job. As far as story goes, this is pretty much just a straight reboot. They don't actually try to bring story into it much at all. There is this kind of interesting thing where you see a thousand-year-old door that has Sonic and Tails' picture on it. This brings rise to the pretty interesting idea that maybe the Sonic from this time is actually 1,000 years into the future of the Sonic that we used to play with. And maybe they're going to introduce the idea that maybe there are different incarnations of Sonic, just like there are different incarnations of, like, Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. This would also explain why the new series has a sort of post-apocalyptic theme, and so on and so forth. However, this isn't actually the case. I'm not going to spoil why Sonic and Tails' picture are on a thousand-year-old door, but trust me, it's disappointing. Metal Sonic and Shadow both make an appearance in the game, and that's kind of interesting. I was actually expecting them to use a lot of build-up for them, but unfortunately, Metal Sonic appears during like the second cutscene in the game, and Shadow appears during like the third cutscene in the game. Metal is still pretty cool. Like, obviously, you don't have to do much with him. As long as you keep him quiet and he's a robot that destroys things, then he's gonna be cool. But Shadow, I sure hope none of you out there are Shadow fans. Personally, I was kind of like Shadow. I thought he was kind of cool, kind of edgy. I really like that kind of character, but they really took it a little too far in the reboot. Like, the first time you actually get to talk to him, he's like, "What? Sonic? You're not gonna save the world, 'cause you're weak. Do you know why you're weak, Sonic? 'Cause you believe in the power of friendship." I know Shadow's never been that nice of a person, but that is a little bit too much, Sonic Team. Just a tad bit. Like most modern Sonic games, the game is a high-speed 3D platformer. There are a lot more slower downbeat sections where you actually play like a traditional platformer, and you can switch between the characters pretty much at will, and there are certain movement types that only one specific character can go through. For example, as you're seeing now, Sonic can spin dash up ramps. He can also use a homing attack on these floating blue orb things. Tails can no longer fly upward, but he can fly up if there's like an air vent or something below him, and that's normally his gameplay gimmick. Amy is now super acrobatic, and she can climb over ledges and also kind of like tightrope walk over some rails. She's also the only character with a triple jump, and while Knuckles can no longer glide, he can still climb on things. Luckily, all of the areas where you have to use a specific character are color-coded blue, orange, pink, or red, so that we don't have to think too hard. There are also beat-em-up bits, but the beat-em-up bits are garbage. Every single character can get through all of the beat-em-up sections by just mashing on the attack button. If you want to be in the super cool guys club, you can also mash on the special button. They tried to differentiate the characters by making each of the specials do something different, like Sonic can spin dash into enemies, and Tails can drop these little robot things that help you fight. Amy spins her hammer around, and Knuckles becomes a King of Fighters character. Honestly, they all do pretty much the same amount of damage, and it doesn't matter what character you're playing as. I would recommend playing as Tails the most because you can drop up to 3 of the little buddy bots, and the buddy bots automatically kill enemies for you. Some of you are wondering if it controls a little bit better than Sonic Unleashed. No. This is even worse than the combat in Sonic Unleashed. Even if you suck at a part of the game, there is zero punishment in this game whatsoever. The live system is gone, so you can die as much as you want to, okay. Lives are kind of a dead concept anyway, let's go ahead and get rid of those. There are rings effing everywhere. Just look at all of the rings in the background there. You can get all of those. Nothing's even hurting you in this section. They're just showering you with rings, and this never stops. The same amount of rings is pretty much through the entire game. You cap out at 100 rings now, so giving you all of these rings is absolutely pointless. When you get hit, you no longer lose all of your rings. You lose a few of your rings. The punishment for hitting things while you're running is normally like 10 rings at a time, and when you get hit by enemies, it could be like 15 rings at a time. The problem with this is even if you lose all of your rings, every single one of them, you're going to get 100 rings during the next part anyway. There's no reason for it to be this easy. You want to know how I beat a lot of the running sections? You can set the controller down and just hit every single obstacle while you're running, and you never die. Because as soon as you lose like 10, 15-ish rings from running, you get 25 rings because there are 25 rings along the track. That is ridiculous. I think one of the worst things to harp on is if you're in the middle of a boss fight and you lose all of your rings and die somehow, then you come back to life with 30 free rings, and on top of that, you continue the boss fight from where you left off. So the boss has the same amount of damage, and you don't even have to restart the boss fight. You just get to keep going. It's so dumb. Like, I get it. It's a kid's game, but kids aren't retarded. I remember being a kid. I remember being 4 years old playing the original Sonic games, and I happen to remember not needing to have 30 rings every time I came back, or be able to come back in the middle of a boss fight. That is dumb. The game features an overworld much like Sonic 06 and Sonic Adventure 1, and I think Sonic Unleashed also had an overworld. My main problem with the overworlds is that they are very confusing and there is not much to them other than where you need to go, but it's very hard to figure out where you need to go because you get one yellow arrow that pops up for about 4 seconds when you first get here, and then it goes away and you don't get any more tips as to where you need to go. For example, the very first thing you're told is find Cliff, and at first I thought Cliff was like an actual cliff that you needed to find, and every time I talked to people, they always told me, "No, don't talk to me, I don't want to talk to you," so I just stopped talking to people. But it turns out that the first thing you're supposed to do is actually find somebody to talk to. This problem is alleviated a little bit when you finally get your map, but you only get a map like a few hours into the game, and that is just way too late. You should have gotten the map immediately. Or maybe just not include an overworld map if it's going to be pointless and useless. Here's my thing. I think this game should have been a lot more like Sonic Adventure 2, where each character had their own unique levels. The reason Sonic Heroes worked so well was because each of the character types had some kind of forward momentum. You needed to fly sometimes, you needed to run fast sometimes, and you needed to break through things sometimes. This time, each of the different characters just has a different type of puzzle that only they can solve. If you're going to do something like this, then why not make it so that each character just has their own specific level? Making it so you have to switch to one specific character because you're at a part that only they can solve is really pointless, because after you spend like the 4 seconds getting through that part, then you can pretty much play as anybody. If this game were built like Sonic Adventure 2, then what you could do is have each character have their own set of levels, and then that one character is what you're playing as for the entire level, so the level can be based around that character and their movement type, and it would have felt a lot more clean. It would have also gotten rid of the need for this ridiculously dumb overworld. I don't have much footage of it, but the game is also filled to the brim with glitches and exploits. The video you're currently watching was taken from a YouTuber by the name of Darkspine Sonic. I'll try to put a link in the description. This is a glitch that lets you jump infinitely using Knuckles, but this isn't the only glitch. While I was personally playing through the game, I ended up running through walls, falling through floors, and it was a mess. It was a nightmare. There were so many parts where I ended up glitching through something and it just completely killed the flow of the game. To be fair, the game didn't have much flow to begin with, but still, I mean, come on. It's like they didn't bug test this game at all whatsoever. They released this game 1 week earlier. Personally, I think they should have kept the game back for that week so that they could playtest it and make sure that it wasn't a buggy mess. The game features a 2-player mode, and I think the 2-player mode honestly would fix a few of these problems. I think you and another player playing would probably have a little bit of fun, even with all the glitches and stuff. I think communicating, getting through puzzles and stuff would be really cool. I do have a small problem with the 2-player mode in that it does make everything a little bit worse. I noticed while I was messing around with it that the already low textures were disappearing altogether, the frame rate was dropping a little bit, and the game just looked worse altogether when I started playing with another player. Again, I'm not going to come out here and say that graphics make the game, but having to sacrifice the already bad graphics to go to even worse graphics just to play with another player is kind of dumb. I can understand this kind of crap on like last gen consoles, maybe the Wii, but this is the Wii U. It is time to start stepping up your game a little bit. I mean, come on. The last thing that I want to talk about is you might be seeing a lot of speech bubbles come up. Well, let me explain this. Now that the character is supposed to have more quote-unquote personality, they talk forever. Every time you collect a ring, every time you jump on a bounce pad, every time you dash, every time your character sees a boss, every time you see an enemy, every time you destroy an enemy, Team Sonic cannot shut up. They talk all of the time about stupid stuff, and their lines repeat all of the time because there's not that much that they can talk about. It would be fine if they said something every once in a while, but no, the game cannot go more than like 5 to 10 seconds without having some character say something, and it gets really grating really fast. I could go on forever about all of the bad design choices they decided to make, but I need to start wrapping this thing up soon, so there's only one other thing I'll talk about. While you're on the overworld, you can go and do like little side quests and stuff. The side quests are all boring, and there's little unlockable things you can do by giving up robot parts to rebuild certain structures, so on and so forth, and whatever. These give you access to unlockables, and the unlockables really aren't anything special. Like, doing a side quest gives you some kind of power-up, and you can choose from a set of 9 power-ups, but if you do another side quest, then you can choose from the same set of power-ups. It's completely pointless. If you've already gotten the power-up that you like, then eventually you're going to start running out of power-ups that you care about. Like, maybe there's like 2 or 3 power-ups you want, you do 2 or 3 side quests, you have all of them, and there's no reason to do a single other one ever. There's just no replay value. I see no reason to actually go and try to 100% this game. No payoff whatsoever. I want to reiterate one more time that I was legitimately excited for this game, and I wasn't one of the haters who was already planning on hating the game. I think Sonic Boom is an interesting concept, and I'll be excited to see where they take it from here. But unfortunately, their first attempt to get Sonic Boom out of the gate as a reboot was a failure. While it pains me, I have to give this game a worth it price of $15. There's really no reason to waste your money on this game until it becomes a bargain bin game so that you can kind of see what the concept of Sonic Boom was supposed to be and see where maybe they take it in the future. If you can find a used copy of this game at like a garage sale or something for $15, I do definitely think you should pick it up for yourself and test it out so that you can see where all of the reviews and critics are coming from. I am, however, increasing the worth it price to $20 if you happen to have a friend that you can go through the game with. Despite the Play-Doh graphics and the worse frame rate, I do believe that if you have a friend with you, then you can find some kind of fun enjoyment in the game. Thank you for sitting through my review. If you have any thoughts on the game, then please leave them in the comments section below. Don't forget to leave that thumbs up. Those things really do help us out. And finally, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Kudo news. Until next time, gamers.